It's not in mine. What you see is what you get. Okay, 2-year-old running away when running away, that's a runner. There's 4 different things that they're either going to do or they're never going to do. One is running, one is climbing, one is hitting, and one is tantruming. And if they're runners, you just get the harness, whatever, and then as soon as they start to run, clip them in. And you keep them clipped in for the rest of that outing. Is it going to get ugly? Yeah, they're going to scream. That's okay. Never be afraid of a fit scene or a tantrum. That is their brain processing. I'm not getting my own way, and that's okay. They have to learn that. So it's always harder on you than it is on them. How do I keep my toddler in her room, especially at night, for her safety? Check out my bedtime battles course. That'll tell you how to keep them in bed. And by the way, it's ugly. It gets ugly. It's usually one night of hell. Do it on a weekend when you don't have to get up in the morning. How do I tackle the appalling diet, bland food? I don't know what you mean by that. And I don't talk about nutrition anyway, so I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, so I'm not qualified to discuss that. 2.5 and 4-year-old hate clothes changes into PJs, dresses for day, run away, scream, kick, no matter what we do. Okay, well, the 2.5-year-old, you just have to wrestle them down. The 4-year-old, I would put it on the behavior board and say, get dressed within 10 minutes of being asked to do so. And you can help them out, but if not, there's a consequence. So check out the behavior board. It'll teach you how to do that. When you want to correct something with a 3-year-old or over, use the behavior board and put it on there. The 2.5-year-old, you just got to wrestle them into it. You don't put them on a behavior board. They're too little. How would you deal with a 2-year-old hitting her older brother while riding in the car seat in their car? Well, there's not much you can do because you don't have access to them. I had a client years ago, and they put up a partition. There was something that they did. There was some kind of a partition. And if they can't see each other, they can't hit each other. Can't remember what they did, but they literally put up a partition. We worked on that. I said, well, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do when you're driving, especially with little ones. So yeah, check into a partition. There's not much you can do right now. You got to be able to keep them apart. You got to be able to keep that older one out of reach of the little one. I have 6-year-old twins, both behavioral, trying to keep them separate. Okay, what's IEP and 504? I have no idea what that means. I don't know what you mean. No idea what that means. 20-month-old throwing tantrums associated with transitions. Yeah, that's often when they have them. Doesn't have the vocabulary to explain every circumstance. What do I do? You don't explain it. You just ignore it. I actually have a course on toddler tantrums. If you're interested, check that out. It's one of my mini courses, and it explains how you deal with tantrums. You don't explain anything to a 20-month-old. They're not about words. They're about actions. I know that the mini therapy sessions are really big right now, but they're trendy, but they were just invented to make the mom feel good. They have nothing to do with toddlers. A toddler's language is actions. It's not words. So yeah, you just ignore tantrums, but there's a way of doing it. You don't leave the room. You want them to see, it's like you're waiting for a bus. You want them to see you standing there waiting. File your nails. Don't go on a phone or don't have a conversation with someone. I think that's rude when they're having a tantrum. You want to look like you're just waiting for it to be over, but you don't look at them. Waiting. So yeah, it's a real method in how you do that. Anyway, check out the mini toddler course. It's up in the link somewhere. Okay, consequences for a 3-year-old has been putting her to bed early. No, you don't do that. Consequences for a 3-year-old have been putting her to bed early and not laying and reading with, oh, no. You never take away love, never. And laying in bed with her is that connection, that's love. You never want to touch on that. Also, you don't do bedtime, food, anything where it's like a necessity. It's a basic need. You never interfere with any of that stuff when it comes to discipline. Find other ways. Check out the behavior board. It's completely free. It's in the link above, and it'll teach you how to discipline. Yeah, you never take away love, ever. If you're used to laying in bed with her, you don't take that away. You don't take love away. It just makes matters worse and worse and worse. Okay, toddler is whiny when she's trying to communicate. She's bilingual, so not sure if it's the hurdle, but trying to stop. It's not necessarily the hurdle. I mean, maybe because she's bilingual, I don't know. But I've never heard of that before. So yeah, just ignore what you don't like, what you don't want. Okay, if it's just attitude based, and there's nothing you can do about whining with a little wee one. So yeah, just ignore the whining. And if she's old enough to understand this, I would say, if you ask nicely, I'll talk to you. The answer still might be no, but I will respond to you. But if you talk to me like this, I won't talk. I won't answer you. Okay, if she's old enough to understand that, that would be 3 and over. Okay, you got kids who are biting, toddlers who are biting. Is there any severe corrective? Well, if you've got twin 1.5-year-olds and a 2.5-year-old, they're all biting and hitting, even with constant correction. I'm going to read out, oh, shoot. Oh, yeah, I do have it here. Okay, my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers, just to sort of get you a little bit organized. It might help. There's one thing in particular here that I was thinking might help. Okay, just a second. I don't know why I always have to look at my notes. I know this off by heart, but anyway, I don't know why. I just always have to look at it. Okay, so these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is you child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. That might be it. Number 3 is you connect with toddlers in their world. You don't go to the nail salon with a toddler. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. It ups your leadership skills. The more you know how to connect in their world and talk their language, which is all fun and action, and the more of a leader they'll look at you differently. Number 4, it's sort of the same as number 3, but it's when you're disciplining, you also enter their world. You don't have these mini therapy sessions. You don't say something stupid and condescending like this. Use your words. How condescending is that? They are using their words. Screaming, kicking, whining. That is their words. Use your words. What you're doing is saying you're not good enough communicating the way you are. Be more like me. Find your inner adult. God, I hate that saying. Whoever came up with that stupid use your words, I'd like to meet them one day. Anyway, okay, I wouldn't. I don't know what I'd say anyway. I'm not very confrontational. I just say, hi, how are you? Anyways, I like to talk tough. Number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and the first year you were a potato laying on a mattress. They're just forming. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed in there. I always say toddlers are crazy, but it's more that they just haven't developed sanity yet. So yeah, that's my 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. Whew, that's a mouthful. I purchased your boot camp course today. Good luck with that. Do not rush it. If anything, you can add another week or 2 on the end of it, especially with Christmas coming up. But I have paced that out. That is, it took me years to pace that out perfectly. I've been coaching for 17 years. That course has only been around for about 6 months. It took me ages to figure out how to pace it. I figured 5 weeks. And I had a test group go through it, and they said, yeah, 5 weeks. So good luck. Don't rush it, though. Do not go to week 4. You can read all the weeks, but don't rush. Everyone wants week 4. Don't start there. Okay. My 2-year-old is still drinking warmed milk. Any tips to transition? Just stop doing it. You don't need to transition. Just say no more warm milk and then just have something else. But you don't just take something away. You give them something else kind of special. So find something else to replace it with. Maybe get one of those crazy straws. How on earth would you clean those things, though, eh? That's why I never got those for my kids. You know, those loopy crazy. How do you clean that? Anyway, so yeah, get something to replace it with and just go through the agony of them having a fit. I know it's painful, but those fit scenes and tantrums is them processing, I didn't get my own way and I'm not happy about it. That's okay. Allow them to process that. Okay, we live with my mother and we are curious if we should include her in the behavior chart. If so, what's a good idea for her? She doesn't yell and is truly wonderful. Well, then just leave her off. Just do the parenting stuff. Leave her out of it then. Not everyone has to be on there. It's usually just parents and kids. So she just doesn't even have to be on there. You can put her on there in a fun way, though. Like just put her on there. Grandma has to play hide and seek with us for 10 minutes a day. And if she doesn't, the next day she has to do 20 minutes. So make it fun. Put her on there, make it something fun. So she's not actually disciplining the children. She's just she has a rule and a consequence, and it's all fun. Play hide and seek. Grandma, play hide and seek. I would love that with grandkids. I got my very first grandchild due in about a week. They won't be playing hide and seek for quite some time, but I'm looking forward to that one day. My daughter is 7 and she lies, saying she doesn't feel good at school, go to the clinic just so she can get picked up from school, and it's a continuous thing. Yeah, they do that. I don't know why. Why is she doing that? Did she just start doing that? There's got to be a reason behind that. And plus, if they're going home, they'd be going to bed with maybe a book. So there's no way they'd be watching screens or anything. If I knew they were lying about being sick, they would be in bed with maybe a hot water bottle and a book and no screens, no nothing. So, but yeah, I want to find out why. I'd want to investigate that. If you want my help, you'd have to hire me to figure that out. We'd have to figure out why. Is it new or is it just old, something she's always done? I don't know. 4-year-old was perfectly potty trained, but he started wetting his pants at school and won't share the reason why. He just doesn't want to ask to go to the bathroom during school. He's probably embarrassed about it. So talk to the teacher about that and see what he can ask. That would be my guess. Okay. Or maybe he's having too much fun there. So maybe the teacher has to remind him, hey, come on, you're going to go to the bathroom now. Not do you have to go, but hey, I'm going to take you to the bathroom now. Okay, so yeah, they often do regress, usually because something's more fun or they're embarrassed to ask. It's one of the two. Usually, could be something else. I'm just guessing here. I just go with what I see most often. My 6-year-old still uses Pampers at night. Is it okay to wait longer? I don't know if they need that. You'd have to hire me for that. I have to figure out, why are they still wearing Pampers? Are they a bedwetter? Do they have a weak bladder? Is that been diagnosed and you know that? And also never shame them. Ever, 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 ever. So yeah. Is it okay to wait longer? I wouldn't, I'd investigate that. If you want to hire me, I'd want to figure that out. And try and figure out how to stop that. Yeah. And some kids are bedwetters till they're teenagers. They call it immature bladders or something. Maybe they have a real short pipeline between the bladder and where it comes out. I don't want to get too technical here, but you know what I mean? It might just be really short and they don't get a lot of notice. That could be part of it. So it could be could be physical. So anyway, okay, let's see here. Dad is the pleaser for 3.5-year-old. I'm working on being the leader. Do I intervene? My dad toddler struggles, or is that it's on him? It was the same with my ex-husband and my father. I was the leader, my mom was the leader, and the pleaser this is what happened. My ex-husband, he took our son out once, and our son was wonderful around me, but he was still little. Usually when they get about 4, they're great everywhere when they've got a leader. But when they're little, they'll sometimes pull out the evil side a little bit when they get the pleaser parent alone. So anyway, my husband came home and said, oh, geez, he was a pain today. And, so I said, okay, here's what you do. Because I didn't want him disciplining our kids. I didn't want to messing them up. I knew what I was doing. So I said, I'll tell you what, just say to him, do you want me to tell mom? That's all it took. So we were on the same page. He was still the pleaser. But if our son was doing something he didn't like, he'd say, do you want me to tell mom? That's all it took. Our son would say, no, never mind. I never even did anything. That's what's so funny. My son said when he was grown up, he said, why were we so afraid of you? You never even did anything. And I said, I know. I had mom's look. That's all it took. Or the threat of mom. And I never even did anything. That was the funny part. That's when you're a leader, you don't have to discipline or anything. You're just the leader. They would have been embarrassed because they respected me. They tend to really respect the leader and they want to please the leader. So it would be embarrassing acting out. All it would take was this, oh, I'm disappointed in you, sweetie. And they would, because I was the leader. 7-year-old talking about not wanting to get old like pop, pop, or die. Oh, well, I don't know what to say to that. Is that a problem? Just say, yeah, we all get old sometimes. Don't overthink that. I'm thinking, why is that a problem? I wouldn't overthink it. Say, yeah, we all are going to die one day. But hopefully it'll be a long, long time. I peed myself in bed at 12 years old. It's okay. Yeah, some people do. It's not the end of the world. Okay, mold toxicity. Yeah, I don't get into all that stuff. We don't know what's going on there. Is it okay for my son wears his sister's dresses? He gets super sad when I don't let him. Plus, I want to let him be himself. People keep judging me. So is it okay letting him? He's 3. That's kind of a sticky issue because I always used to think, geez, I hope my kids aren't gay or trans or anything. Not that I care, but I just worry about what other people think. So I wouldn't want him being teased by other people. So I would say, wear them at home. But when we go out, no, you'll wear this. I know that it's political. It's a touchy subject. I'm going to get hate for that. But I don't want people being mean to my kids. That was the only thing. It's the only reason I cared. But yeah, I just worried about what other people might say to my child. That's all. So yeah, I would say, yeah, sure, you can wear whatever you want at home. But when we go out, this is what you'll be wearing when we go out. Okay? And then as he gets older, if he does have that tendency or whatever, then you'd want to hire me and I'd work with you on that. I've worked with kids who, had other tendencies. And you want to make sure there is no shame there. None whatsoever. Because there shouldn't be. We're all born certain ways, right? How to lead 3-year-old toddler when they are having a fit. How to lead a 3-year-old toddler. Well, you don't do anything when they're having a fit. Sometimes silence is golden. You just ignore it to a fit, a scene, or a tantrum. Completely ignore them during that. I don't feel like telling the story because I told it already a couple times today. The swing story. Yeah, I just don't feel like telling it. I tell the same stories over and over again because they're good ones. They're true stories about my kids. But yeah, you just ignore tantrums. I have a mini course on toddler tantrums if you're interested. There's a certain way of ignoring a tantrum, and then I get a lot of hate for that. Say, well, you don't ignore a tantrum, you're emotionally damaging them and all that garbage. The thing is, if your toddler is so sensitive that ignoring a scene, a fit of a tantrum makes them emotionally damaged, you got bigger fish to fry. You're not meeting their needs. They don't feel loved and they don't feel safe. If they have a leader and they feel loved and safe, ignoring a tantrum is nothing to them. They eventually learn that when you get good at ignoring tantrums in a very calm way, they diminish in frequency, intensity, and duration. If you keep feeding them by talking to them, just grows and grows and grows. It's like throwing fertilizer on it. Yeah, exactly what I do. But yeah, it's hard. It's temporary, though. You know, everything like this, everything worthwhile is hard, but it's temporary. Getting respect and stopping the behaviors that you don't like it takes time, but it's temporary and it's worth it. Would you like to hire me when your kids are 17 or 18 years old? Or would you rather sort things out now when they're little? I specialize in teenagers. You don't want to hire me when you've got an 18-year-old out of control. You don't want to. I specialize in that, but you don't want to hire me when you've got an 18-year-old. Do it now. It's hard now, really hard later. Huge, huge hard. So yeah, short-term pain for long-term gain. My feelings are the same, thank you. Okay, good. You don't have to agree with me, by the way. Lots of people disagree with, not as much as they used to, but it's fun when they do, because I don't think everyone has to agree with me. I think that's ridiculous. A 7-year-old acts so mature sometimes and baby talks other times. Yeah, what's your problem? Yeah, that's what they do. It's like whenever someone says to me, oh, she's 9 going on 19, I say, no, she's not. I said, wait till she's 19, then you'll look back and realize what a ridiculous statement that was. They mimic, they mask what they see, but then the real them isn't necessarily the baby talk, but yeah, they tend to sort of go back and forth, back and forth. They have their moments of mature and their moments of immature. How do you teach a 3-year-old about the risks of running off? Consequences. Get a harness, and as soon as they start to run, clip them in and keep them clipped in for the rest of that outing. That's how you teach them. These mini therapy sessions, having therapy sessions, discussing things with a 3-year-old, waste of time. It's got to be about consequences. Thoughts on gentle parenting? I've never studied it. I don't have any thoughts on it. And even if I had studied it, I would not comment on that. The only 2 types of parenting I comment on, and they're big umbrellas. There's a whole bunch of styles underneath each one, I'm sure. One is the old-fashioned authority style parent. Not a bad way to parent. I don't do that, but it's not. The kids turn out pretty darn good. The new pleaser parent style. So you decide where that goes. You know, the pleaser parent style is trying to roll out the red carpet for your kids, and you're raising self-entitled snowflakes by trying to make everything easy for them. You want to please them. You want them to like you. Heaven forbid you should say no to your child. So I discuss both of those, but those are really big. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff under those 2 umbrellas. But yeah, I don't critique specific things. I've never studied it. Why would I? I only teach through my own experience. I've just coined the phrase leadership parenting myself, because I think if you're a leader, it's like being a mentor, a really good coach, someone kids look up to, and you're fun. You should be friends with your kids, but you're still very much in charge, and they know it because they look up to you. They want to please you. So I only teach what I know. I don't critique it. Lots of people have come on and attacked me, and I'm like, go for it. I'll never say anything back. I think it's tacky. Anyway, 3.5-year-old, great at home, test the limits when out in public. That's because it's a tell. It's because you're a different parent when you're out in public. They would not do that unless you were a different parent. So you're inconsistent. I was the same mom 100% no matter where we were. I could have cared less. Wherever we were, that my kids knew 100% exactly what I was going to do and say. I was predictable. So why would they be different? Do you see comments? No, I don't have time. I was trying to get through some DMs. I'm trying to get through DMs. I've got through Facebook. I think I had 100 or 2 to get through, a couple hundred to get through on Facebook. This is messages. And then I haven't even got to Instagram and TikTok. Every so often I'll go through and just sort of pick, like, you know, just pick a few DMs to answer. I don't have time. I literally would have to be working 8 days a week to answer all my DMs, let alone comments. I can't look at them. Every so often I'll randomly look at them, But I've got such a big following now on TikTok and Instagram, and Facebook's really picking up. I'll be honest, I just don't have time. That's why I'm serving you by these lives. This is all my free stuff. You get this. I'm doing a live every day, usually for an hour, sometimes up to 2. I just turn up whenever I turn up. So this is where I give all my free answers. Yeah, don't email me parenting questions. I don't do that. So I just don't have time. So yeah, if you have questions, this is where I answer them. And if you really have big questions, you have to hire me for coaching. That's how this works. My almost 3-year-old tends to shove my 9-month-old when she plays because she sees him coming. I'm guessing that she does that because yeah, okay. There's a couple things going on. I kind of don't blame her if he's coming in and destroying everything. What you have to do is have a safe place for her to play where he can't touch anything. I've already answered this, haven't I? Is this a couple days ago? Did you ask me the same thing? Maybe it was just a different parent, but it was the same age, 3 and 9 months. Anyway, so yeah, have a safe place for the 3-year-old to play and say, if you don't want your stuff touched, you have to play on your bed, in your room, or wherever it is. Have a say on top of the dining room table, somewhere where the little baby can't get to it. Otherwise, it's free game. And if you push your little brother again, there'll be a consequence. He'll get to play with your favorite toy for like 10 minutes, and you play with the baby with that toy, not her. So yeah, I kind of don't blame her. You know, if you're just building something and a baby comes along and knocks it over, I'm not saying she should hit, but I can see where you're not setting her up for success. She's getting frustrated. A lot of the reasons why kids get upset over things and lash out, especially lashing out at siblings, is injustices. I was going to do a video on that. Did I do that? No, I don't think I did. What did I call it? I couldn't figure out how to name it. I don't even know if I did it. I just don't have time for all this stuff. I thought I was going to get time to do that. What did I call it? Yeah, the reason why they lash out. Why do kids fight? Oh, that's what I was going to call it. Yeah, injustices and unfairness. I haven't done it yet, but I wrote it all out. So they often fight because there's injustices and unfairness. Like if you get everything you just worked so hard on with a toy and someone else comes along and knocks it away, that's unfairness, right? You see what I'm saying? Does that make any sense? In my head, it made sense. I feel glad someone else out there feels the same about dresses. Was that it's okay to wear them at home? For sure, but not when you're out, because I don't want my kid I don't want anyone being mean to my kid. That would upset me. I think your kid should be able to do whatever he wants to do. But unfortunately, the world isn't that accepting of that stuff. And you know what's going to happen is if you allow your little boy to go out in dresses, it's going to be adults who say stuff, not little 3-year-olds. They don't care. It's going to be an adult that says something that you'll never forget it. It'll be something said, and you'll just never forget it. Oh, is that a little boy in a dress or something like that? There's so many stupid people out there. Anyway, just I've worked with so many gay kids and everything, and they've all been, it's usually adults that have been mean to them. So, which, how can you be that dumb to hurt a kid? Anyway, my 1.5 son screams after turning off the YouTube shows. Do I just ignore it? Yeah, absolutely. How slow would you recommend going through the boot camp course? 5 weeks. You can stretch it out to 6, maybe even 7, especially over the holidays, but do not try and make it go fast. It's actually paced out that it's not 5 weeks of hell. It's like 1 rule per week in the first 3 weeks. It's all paced out, but you're learning as you go. So it's all paced out. You can actually have a life while you're doing it. It's not like this full-on 5 weeks. It's like here, you're just dealing with this 1 rule per week, okay? So anyway, it's all paced out that way. And you're learning as you go. It's about you, not your kids. You learn how to lead, and they will follow. Really appreciate your expertise. Love the delivery. Thank you. Yeah, I says it like it is. Sometimes I worry. I sometimes say nasty stuff. Like just say it like it is. Like this one mom, this really got my craw, and I went off on her. I felt really bad about it. But anyway, so she said, but I couldn't. I knew I was going to feel bad, but I had to say it. She said, my 3-year-old's always talking back to me or something like that. It was on a live. And she said, she's always talking back. She has such an attitude. And I said, well, that's your fault. You built that. So now you can unbuild it. Then she comes back and I explained. I said, look, their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting between the ages of 3 and 12. I think this kid was 3 or 4. So I said, that's on you. You taught her to do that. You accepted that. You trained her to do that. So anyway, then the mom comes back and she goes, are you telling me, are you just trying to make me feel bad? Oh, I went off on her after that. So it's all about her. It's not about her child. Like it was like she'd rather blame her child for having a bad attitude than blame herself for growing that bad. You see what I mean? Oh boy, I went off on her. Anyway. I had to say it. I just had to. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. Why wouldn't you want to take the blame? And when they're good, I took credit too, take the blame and the credit. I took all the accolades for how great my kids were. I put in the work for that, by the way. So yeah, you got to take the blame. Even when I was mentoring troubled teenagers, if they did something I didn't like, I always did this, and I only saw them for like an hour a week, and I always, or an hour and 20 minutes a week or whatever during class. And I always thought, what am I doing wrong here? What am I missing? I blamed myself. That's what a leader does. A leader takes responsibility for who's under your care. Their children. Take responsibility for what they do. Don't blame them. Anyway, I don't think that mother will ever talk to me again. I'm quite okay with that. Actually, I went off on someone else like that too, and she ended up hiring me. So sometimes I get through. But I'm old. I have to say it like it is. How would you discipline a 2-year-old that keeps hitting and pushing a little brother 8 months old? That's a tricky one. You just have to be there physically and just keep saying no. And then you pick up the little one and fuss over the little one. No. And then you pick up the, are you okay? Okay, let's read a book or what. You got to do it like that, like clockwork. If you miss one hit, they remember that. You got to be consistent. Just make it a weekend, a project you're going to do over the weekend. It's weird. Well, you need to put an age. You talked about your son acting out in front of others. Is he 16, 6? I don't know. I can't answer it without an age. How do you engage a 2.5-year-old to learn their colors or numbers? Oh God, you're going to hate me. She is tough to get her to engage learning or even following along. Why are you doing accelerated learning with a 2.5-year-old? They've got a lot of learning ahead of them in school. Let them play in the mud. Let them be a toddler. If you accelerate your child, by the time they get into preschool or kindergarten or grade 1, they're going to know whatever they're learning, and then they're going to be bored and act out because they've already learned it. And it doesn't make them smarter in the long run. It just makes them bored in grade 1. Then they have behavioral issues. And then by grade 3, they're all caught up anyway. You're not doing them any favor. Why are you rushing it? This poor kid. Let them play in the mud. I don't like accelerated learning at all. My son was labeled gifted at a very young age. He was assessed and he was offered all sorts of scholarships at 3 years old. Anyway, they all throughout school, they tried to accelerate him. I fought it like crazy. I just wanted him to be normal. And anyway, so I fought it. By high school, he had to be segregated. I didn't have a choice. I fought it, but they segregated him. I didn't agree with it at all. Yeah. At all. I don't like that kind of stuff at all. Just treat them like normal. You know what I always used to say to my kids, if you're born really smart or really good looking, you can't take credit for that. That's a natural born gift. You only take credit for things that you work for. So I only gave my kids credit for what they worked hard for. That was it. I said, yeah, aren't you lucky you were born smart? Lucky you. You can't take credit for that. Does that make sense? Have you heard of the 3-day potty training method? I only teach what I know. I've never, ever looked at anything to do with kids or parenting anywhere else. Kids taught me everything I'm teaching you. Kids have taught me this. I've learned this through working with hundreds of children and teenagers. So I don't I don't critique what else is out there because I don't know what else is out there. I'm very pure with that. I'm very strict with that. The only way I know what's going on out there is when I used to do a lot of TV and radio, and they always asked me questions about what's out there. So I had to sort of answer stuff, but without critiquing it. It was really awkward. But when my clients come to me, they tell me what they've been doing. So then I'll hear about it that way. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Was that when I said something snotty? I'm very passionate about this. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to make you enjoy parenting as much as I did. Get all that pesky discipline out of the way so your kids are nice and respectful, and then you can just relax and have fun with them like I did with my own kids. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to make you enjoy parenting like I did. That's all I care about, is that you're happy. And if me saying what I need to say helps, I'm going to say it. Anyway, okay, I'm going to get going because I'm going to be moving over to TikTok now. And I'm on YouTube the whole time. So if you want to join me on TikTok, it's Bratbusters Parenting. If not, go to the link and you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, 5 weeks to get respect from 3 to 12-year-olds. Or you can hire me for coaching. It's all in the link above. So I'm moving over to TikTok if you want to join me over there. Okay, discard video. I don't save those lives. I do save some of my lives, but not the Instagram ones. I save my lives on Facebook and on YouTube, and that's it. There's a reason for that. It's for who I have someone who does I do TikTok, but I have someone else who does all my other platforms, and they use those 2 lives. Okay. Hello, I'm just getting set up. I was just on Instagram. You might be joining me from over there. Oh, boy, I talk a lot. My voice gets really dry. What was I just saying? Oh, yeah. I just mentioned something I thought was kind of interesting. I was doing a Facebook Live earlier today, and I said, I don't actually manage my YouTube, my Facebook, or my Instagram. I don't do those, but I do my TikTok. So if you want to see all my videos, even the crappy ones, that's all me. So they're all on TikTok. But the other ones are curated. They just take the best ones and put them on the other platforms. But if you want to see all my crappy videos and everything that I put out there, I do TikTok. So yeah, I do some real crappy videos. Sometimes, and I don't do it for views. That's the thing, is the other person does them more for views. Like whatever's popular on TikTok, they'll throw somewhere else. But yeah, I don't go for views on TikTok. I just go for what I think you need to hear. So, okay. Hi, I'm your biggest fan. Oh, thanks so much. I love your name, by the way. I love the name Brooklyn. Why do some kids sound not like their parents? I don't know what you mean by that. And then you asked about whining. I generally ignore whining. Whining's in the attitude department, but if they're 3 or 4 years old or older, I would say, look, if you talk to me like this, I won't even answer you. But if you ask nicely and then show them how to answer or ask, say the answer still might be no, but I will answer you. Okay, so just tell them that. You might have to tell them a few times if they're only 3. But yeah, you know what? Tantrums, bring it on. Piece of cake doesn't bother me at all because I know how to deal with them. Whining, I can't stand. I hate whining. It just gets in my brain and I can't handle whining. We all have a weakness. Whining is mine. I still ignore it, but I hate whining. Why do fathers have all the authority and kids are less likely to listen to their mom? Are you kidding me? My mother was the leader and I was the leader. So I find more often than not, it's the mom who's the leader because they're usually the ones who's home more. So yeah, my mother was definitely the leader. My dad let me get away with murder. But what would happen is I'd say, Daddy, can I have this? He goes, sure, sweetie pie, you can have whatever you want. And then he'd say, just let's check with mom first. And I go, never mind. So mom was definitely in charge and I was definitely in charge. So yeah, it's not like that at all. Maybe 50-50, but I certainly don't see, because I've been doing this for 17 years now, teaching this, and I certainly don't see a trend towards dads being more the leader. How do you teach stubborn kids to listen? You don't. They're not listening to you because they don't respect you. Work on your leadership skills and they will listen. It's just the way it is. If you're a leader, they will listen. They will look up to you. I've worked with hundreds of kids and I managed to get respect with all of them. Do you think those kids were easy? Do you think anyone ever said to me, here's an easy one, Lisa? Not once, not ever. They always went, good luck with this one. So yeah, I worked with all the stubborn, difficult kids and I always managed to get respect. Was it them or me? It's me. Work on yourself. Work on you. I teach parenting, not kidding or teenagering. I teach parenting. You lead, they will follow. My kid refuses to hold my hand, my son. Okay, we'll get a leash then. Put him on a leash and you say, if you won't hold my hand, you're going to be clipped in. And then he'll either hold your hand or you just have him on a leash. That's a safety issue. You can't have him running in front of a bus. You got to keep him safe, right? How do I keep my 17-month-old after co-sleeping since birth? So you want to get them away from the bed. You can check out my Bedtime Battles course. He's a little bit young for that if he's still in the crib. If he's still in the crib, You can't do that course because they're trapped in the crib. It's more for when they can get out of bed. Yeah, so check that out. I don't know if he's in a bed or in a cot or in a crib. My kids in Australia, I raised my kids in Australia, so I didn't have babies in Canada, North America. So all my baby terms are still like nappies and cot and pram and all that stuff. So I still have a hard time transferring over. Give examples about leader. Everything I talk about is leadership. You want to bring out the best in your kids. You want your kids to like themselves when they're with you. When they're acting out and being rude and whiny and snotty, they don't like themselves. Their self-esteem is in the toilet. You guide them into making good decisions and good choices. So just keep watching. I can't sum it up in one sentence, but you lead, they will follow. It's just the way it is. And I lead with fun. That's my weapon. I always used to say my weapon of choice with kids is fun. And with teenagers, I was funny. I always use humor and fun. Yeah, they like fun Lisa. So they want to please fun Lisa because it's like a really good mentor or coach. You want to please that person. Have you ever had a mentor or a coach or a teacher that you really looked up to? Would you ever be rude to them? Not in a million years, would you? That's what leadership's all about. It's someone who brings out the best in you. That's what a leader does. Anyway, I do have a big boot camp course. It's from 3 to 12 years old if you're interested. It teaches you how to be a leader. It's over 5 weeks. So excited to be here. So am I. I love doing these lives. These are like, aside from my voice going, these are like meditation to me. I just love talking to parents. It's actually, I used to say coaching's my favorite thing, and it probably still is because I get to know the parents. I see them too. It's not just one way, right? So I really like that. But there's always the pressure of, solving all their problems and helping them out. Whereas here, there's not even the pressure. I probably still like coaching the most. That's where I see the biggest transformations, and I love coaching. But I love this too. Froze. Yeah, I didn't really have an answer for leadership. I just said leaders bring out the best in people and they want to please you. When you're a good leader, they want to please you. And you don't want obedient little soldiers. They want to please you because they look up to you. They admire you. They like you. You're fun. You make them feel good. You've heard the pool story a million times. That is the epitome of leadership. That story, I've told it a million times. I keep freezing. Do I keep freezing? Darn it. I did that yesterday too. Why is that? I didn't freeze anywhere else. I did lives on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and I'm only freezing on here. Sugar. It's not my internet because nothing else is glitching. It's something with me on TikTok. I don't know what's going on. I don't see anything that looks weird. Anyway, sorry about that. Okay, I'm back. Okay. I don't know what's going on. What do you say about parenting differences? What do you mean? What was I saying? What was I saying about parenting differences? I wasn't talking about what I think you mean. About how. What do you mean? Maybe you could clarify. That's Callie. Oh, you've been here before, Callie. Okay. So, Callie, what do you mean by parenting differences? That sounded like it was something psychological or philosophical, which I love talking about. Like all the psychology behind everything I do. The only people who ask me a lot about that when I'm coaching is child psychologists. They want to know all the psychology behind everything. And my God, I love talking about that. Because there's a reason, there's a method to all this. There's a reason behind it, but I don't share that with you because most people aren't interested, right? Is why do I do things the way I do? Why are you on that behavior board? Why do you ignore tantrums? What's the reason behind all that? What's the psychology behind all that? That's the stuff I love. I love talking about all that stuff. I find people fascinating. And you know what? If you understand, especially teenagers, if you really understand teenagers, you understand yourself. Because teenagers are at the height of their intelligence. Their brain is the most efficient and all swollen up and fresh, and it's great. It's huge. And you watch them carefully how they perceive things. You're going to learn more about the world through watching your own kids, especially teenagers, than you will any other way. You got to open your mind to what they're thinking and saying and doing, and you got to watch them. They're fascinating. I don't know what you mean by this. How do I help my 4-year-old baby to have a conversation? Well, if you're calling a 4-year-old a baby, maybe that's part of it. Are you babying them? A 4-year-old's a child. They're not even a toddler anymore. A toddler ends at 2 years and 11 months. At 3 years old, they're preschoolers. So I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe you baby them. I don't know. How do I let go of anxiety around loving my child so much and not wanting any harm? Well, we're all like that, but you got to let them live. I mean, I was a real safety nut. I was a helicopter mom when it comes to safety. I definitely was. My kids never went on a field trip without me because I knew how other parents watched kids, and it wasn't like me. They'd be like on a wall or something where they could fall off 10 feet, and there'd be parents supposedly supervising, and they weren't even holding their hands or anything, like stuff like that. So yeah, I was a nut with safety, but yeah, my kids were involved in everything. I threw them out there; they had to be involved in tons of stuff, but I was there. Uh, how do you have a Facebook account so I can show my parents? I have a page called Bratbusters Parenting. I just started that. I mean, I've had it for years and I've sort of the odd time thrown something on, but I have someone managing it the last 3 months and it's just grown like crazy. So it's called Bratbusters Parenting. I'm Bratbusters Parenting on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Yeah, the reason I get more parents with older kids on Facebook is because it's an older platform, right? TikTok's a lot of toddler parents because it's such a new platform. This is the one that I started on, really, was TikTok. But yeah, it's a lot of young parents on here. You don't see a lot of grandparents or as many grandparents on TikTok. Um, Actually, a couple of years ago, my daughter kept saying, "Mom, you got to go on TikTok. It's for you." Because I love short form video and just casual, just throwing stuff out there. I hate all the planning and all that. I don't do any of that. And she says, "Mom, you got to go on TikTok." She told me for a whole year. Finally, I went on here and I blew up overnight on TikTok. I couldn't believe who the heck's going to watch an old lady talking about parenting? But there's all these young parents on here. I didn't even think about that. I thought it was a bunch of teenagers dancing. I didn't know what TikTok was all about. So, okay. How to teach a 19-month-old inside voice. You can't do. Going to churches. Yeah, it just is. They're just crazy right now. You can't teach them all about church and inside voice. What you're saying to that toddler is be a different person when you're here than you are when you're there. It's an unrealistic expectation. That's why they usually have daycares in churches, or from what I don't go to church, but I've heard that there's daycares there. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Just wander out in the hall with them or something. And take them to the park before you even go. Wear them out. You know, a lot of parents just get all dressed up and then they go straight to church. Well, I'd be at the park and getting all muddy with the kids first and then go home and get dressed. You got to wear them out first. Meet their needs and then you can manage their wants. You can't manage their wants if you haven't met their needs. They need to play in the mud. They need to be physical and crazy. Someone actually asked me, how do I get my, was an 18-month-old or something? How do I get my 18-month-old to listen to reason? I think I read it out loud and then just went, never mind. How do you get it? It's your expectations of your children is often what's out of whack. That's like when people say, oh, my teenager's so moody. What do I do about that? I'm like, flip. Like, what do you want me to say to that? That your expectations are the problem sometimes. So yeah, with toddlers, if you're expecting them to behave in church, really? Like, have you met their needs? Have you been at the park rolling in the mud with them before you go to church? I mean, you know, and even then, you might have to take them out. I mean, that's a big ask. I don't think I could sit still in church. I'd be sitting there squirming. I'm a hyperactive person, so I'm 63. I don't think you could control me in church. To be quiet all that time, I couldn't do it. I'm sorry about my audio. I don't know why. And it's only been doing it on TikTok, not Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. So I don't know why it's doing that here. There's nothing much I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it because I know my internet's good. Because it's only glitching on TikTok. I don't understand TikTok at all. I don't understand any of this at all. So someone asked me, because I have a pretty big following on here, and someone asked me something about TikTok once, and I was like, I don't know. And they said, well, how come you've got all that following if you don't know anything about it? I don't know. Just because I'm on here doesn't mean I understand it. So I don't know why I'm looping. I have no idea. It's frustrating. It's hard to listen to when someone's glitching. So you distinguish allowing a toddler child to be assertive while still being the parent. What do you mean? You allow them to be assertive. You allow them to have a voice, but I don't know what you mean by that. I need a specific situation. You do not want obedient little soldiers. Okay. You want kids who have a voice, but you want respectful children because you treat them with respect. You don't yell. I never yelled. I was never yelled at either. First time anyone ever yelled at me, I think I was 26 years old. And it was a friend of a friend who evidently had some bipolar thing going on. And they yelled, I'd never been yelled at in my whole life. I was 26 years old. And I remember that feeling. It was like I'd been shot. I thought, wow, this feels awful being yelled at. I'd never been yelled at. Interesting, eh? Yeah. Is it recommended to secure the bedroom door of a toddler's safety issues during? Yeah, I don't like it, but you'd have to hire me for that because I do not like locking a child. I got a couple of reasons for that, but I don't like it. But you'd have to hire me to discuss that. I'd need to know why and what are the risks. Like, can you childproof the house so when they do get out, or put a bell on the door so you'll wake up? Put some kind of an alarm when they do get out of their room, that there's some kind of an alarm goes off. But I just don't like it. Like I said, I've got some reasons for that, but I don't like it. If you want to talk to me about that, you'd have to hire me and we'd have to discuss it and figure out why you feel the need for it. You might have to do it. I don't know. It's a safety issue. Yeah, I don't know. You said, did you answer this? Sorry, I don't know the names when I'm answering, so I don't know if I answered your question or not. I don't know why I'm glitching. I did last night too, and I don't know why. It's really frustrating. Okay, going back to, this is on YouTube. Someone asked, going back to the leash thing, is it bad to tell your kid if he doesn't hold their hand or string, string is gonna get up? So in other words, threatening them. I don't do that. I never do that. I would let them run, then clip them in. I don't give them the idea of running. I don't threaten. I don't say, don't be rotten. I just don't do that. I think that's mean. Don't be rotten or this is going to happen. Yeah, I don't talk like that. So I just go, I assume the best, but I deal with the worst if I get it. So let them run, then clip, in they go. You don't run, you're clipped in now. That's all I would do. Leash for kids, yeah. If they're runners, you don't want them getting hit by a bus. You restrain them, just like you do in a car. You put them in a car seat, right? You're restraining them there. What's the difference? Restraining them on the street. They could get hit by a bus if they're runners. So yeah, that's why you use a leash. Get a harness on them, and then as soon as they run, clip and keep them clipped in for the rest of that outing. Yeah, they're going to have a fit. That's part of their process, learning not to run. How do I get my almost 5-year-old to stop interrupting so much? I tell her to raise her hand. No, I don't do that because then she'd be doing it all the time like that. That's it. That is interrupting. It's actually rude. So I used to tell my kids, if I was on the phone or talking to someone, I said, I don't want to hear from you unless a bone is jutting out of your skin or an artery is spurting blood. So, and they just laugh and, oh, okay, haha. So they never interrupted because they knew there'd be a consequence later on. I would say, that was very rude. You interrupted me. So because of that, there's no TV tonight. Do you understand? So they would never have done it again. They never did it anyway because they knew when I said you don't interrupt, you don't interrupt. So but I was meeting their needs and managing their wants. They had tons of mom time. So it's not like they were desperate for my attention. They were probably sick of me anyway. They were probably glad to get rid of me while I was talking to someone else. So because we were together all the time. And but yeah, raising your hand is interrupting. I've seen kids do that. Make sure you raise your hand, and then they're like this, and then yes, and then you feel like you have to answer them. So they're still interrupting. What's the difference? They use their voice or their hands like that. Once I was in a classroom and this kid was doing that, and just like this, constantly, and just didn't teach. Was so frustrated because they're taught to raise their hands, but this kid was using it like a weapon almost. It was funny. I was just sitting at the back of the class. I was like a support for the teachers, and I'm just sitting. We're just looking at each other, the teacher and I, like. How to get a 2-year-old to stop telling me no? Just ignore it, and just make whatever you need to happen. Make it happen. I never repeat myself. I only say something to a kid once. Okay, we're going now. And if they say no, I don't say it again. I would never do that. I would go and pick them up and carry them and put them in the car. So they know, they learn. When mom says something's going to happen, it's going to happen. So they could be kicking and screaming. I don't care. But what I would do is I'd say, we're going to be leaving in a few minutes. So how about we pack up some of your toys and then we're going to get going. So I was always leading them into doing the right thing. Yeah. They just learn. Plus, when they look up to you and you're a fun parent, they kind of want to please you anyway. Like it's just sort of a natural thing. Okay, so this is the one that's getting up in the middle of the night, and you're okay. I don't know. Well, how old is she? Is she 2 or 5 or 6? I don't want her to wander in the kitchen, bathroom, living room, unsafe things. I don't know the age, and I don't know. I would come up with some sort of an alarm system. I would put an alarm on the door, so I would shut the door, but when it's open, an alarm goes off. Then I would get up and I say, "No, you go back to bed." And I'd keep putting them back to bed. I have a course called Bedtime Battles that explains how you keep them in bed. Um, like it's 2 parts: how to get them in bed and then how to keep them there. That's the hard part, keeping them there. So yeah, I would maybe look into that course too. But I don't know how dangerous is it and how old is she and what. I'm not a heavy sleeper when it comes to kids. I could sleep through a siren, but if a kid stirs in the middle of the night, I'm awake. So that they wouldn't have got up without me hearing them. So I would, if you don't wake up that quickly, I would get some sort of an alarm system on the door. Okay, behavior board confuses me. Yeah, it's not conclusive. It's just a behavior board, right? If you hire me for coaching, then we explain all the details on how you make it work. But anyway, what if there is multiple times in a day where the consequence is needed? Okay, here's what you do. So let's say the rule is no hitting. So they hit once and you say, okay, you always go back to the behavior board. Okay, let's go to the behavior board. So you hit, now you have to, I don't know, unload the dishwasher, whatever. So you have to unload the dishwasher and they do it. And then they hit again, they unload the dishwasher. You don't have a dishwasher to unload this time, whatever. So they do it again. I would say, I didn't like that. We're going to discuss that after dinner. So they keep hitting all day long and you keep saying after dinner, afternoon. So after dinner, you say, let's go to the behavior board. So let's look up here. It says no hitting, and then you have to do a chore or whatever. I'll tell you what, you hit 6 times today. I was counting them. So we're going to go straight to the other consequence, and we're going to do 24-hour media blackout. Do you understand? And that's it. Make it happen. And then during that 24-hour media blackout, they might still keep hitting. The only thing I might say is that's why you've got media blackout. So there's nothing you can do. You can't keep topping it up. You just do it once, and they'll eventually learn. It takes a while. The more you're the pleaser before you start with the behavior board, the harder it's going to be. Like if they're used to pushing you around and wiping their feet all over you, that behavior board is going to be a lot of work. But if you've got some level of control already, it'll work well. I never used a behavior board. I invented that as a teaching tool to teach you how to be a leader. It's funny because the first year I was in business 17 years ago, I didn't have a behavior board because I never used one. And I was just teaching people to do what I did, and it wasn't working. I couldn't figure out, they were getting some results, but it was nowhere near what I thought they should. Then I figured it out. I thought, oh, make up a behavior board and put the parents on it too. That's what, because I was accountable with my kids. If I did something wrong, boy, they told me. And I made amends too. So I was also responsible, because remember, a leader leads by example, not just by, hey, do this, you don't just command them around, you lead by example. So you have to choose one behavior to consequence a day. Well, check it out. It's one per week, one rule per week. All the rest of the stuff, who cares? You can't do anything about that. You're just showing them, hey, you're starting to learn how to be a leader, and I'm just doing it with this one rule. At the very most, you could say, look, I didn't like that either. We might put that on a future behavior board. But for now, we're just dealing with this. So just suffer through whatever you were doing before. Let's say you got 10 things your kids are doing wrong. You're only focused on one. That's the behavior board. That one rule on that behavior board. The rest of it, the other 9 things, just suffer through it like you were before. Do whatever you were doing before. And then by the end of the 3rd week, the 3rd behavior board, you only do 3 of them. By the end of the 3rd week, you should start to see the other stuff drop away too. Because they realize, wait a minute, you kind of know what you're doing now. So that all the bad behaviors just start to drop away. So you never have to address them all. Do you read any books that were helpful? I've never read a book on parenting. No, never read. Why would I? Kids taught me all this. I'm experience based, so I've learned. Kids taught me all this. Teenagers taught me a lot too. I'll tell you. I used to mentor delinquent teenagers, and they taught me more than anyone ever has in my whole life. I think. I didn't know I had that much patience. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and I've never read a book on kids or parenting. Why would I? Because I wouldn't agree with anything they were saying anyways, I'm sure, because kids taught me all this. Okay, it's pretty rare to hear this discipline style. I invented this. I don't know who else teaches it. I know it's not true. I have heard people have sent me links. Other people are starting to teach my methods. And that's fine, spreading the word. But I invented all this leadership stuff, as far as I know, anyway. But yeah, you got to be accountable. You have to give respect to get it. That's what it's all based on. Give respect to get it. When I first started mentoring troubled teenagers, I had a little bit of training and I never used any of it. It was always kind of trying to outsmart them. And as if you can outsmart a teenager. I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard. you don't you don't outsmart teenagers. And I get hired by a lot of principals, teachers, child psychologists. I've never been hired by a youth worker. A youth worker works with troubled teenagers. If you can get respect from a troubled teenager, you don't need my help. That's the PhD in all this. So yeah. No, I've never read a book on parenting or kids or anything. Kids taught me everything. So you ignore the other bad behaviors. Don't hit, but you can be rude to me? Yeah, I already said that. Yes. You haven't addressed that yet. You haven't earned the manners yet. You haven't learned how to be a leader yet. So absolutely. It's exactly what I'm saying. Do you give advice to close friends or just let them figure, oh, it's none of my business? I'll never tell my kids how to parent. My son's going to be a dad next week. None of my business. The only advice I gave them, and it was just a couple days ago, I said, don't do what I did. I said, during the day I never napped when my first kid was born, and my second kid I napped during the day. And I said, in that first few weeks, when that baby sleeps, don't worry about housework or anything. Just try and get sleep during the day. That's the only thing I've ever told them. And it's none of my business how my friends are fed. Why would I tell them what to do? I'm not a bossy person. So yeah, I wouldn't do that. None of my business. Yeah, sometimes people have asked, but yeah, I don't. Even then, I'm careful because yeah. But I do remember I used to hear this quite a bit. Oh, you're so lucky. You got the easiest kids. But anyone who knew me knew the work I put in. I put work into those kids. Like I earned that respect. And I used to get every single year, I'd get, for both my kids, I'd get a handwritten note from the principals. And they'd always say, if every kid was as nice as your kid, school would be a pure joy. And thank you for all the work you put in. They knew it was work. They knew I'd put in the work. I'd earned that. This doesn't come easy. You got to work for it. But I earned it when they were little, so I sailed right through the teen years. Getting respect is hard work. Maintaining it's a piece of cake. Once you know how to do it, it's a piece of cake. But learning how to do, because you're changing yourself. You're opening your mind. You're being accountable. You're being receptive to what they're saying. My kids never, oh boy, if I did something wrong, they were very quick to say something. But they were always respectful when they did. They said, Mom, I don't think you were being very fair when you did that. And I'd go, yeah, you're right. I wasn't, was I? What do you want? And they'd say, we'd love to go to the water slide park. And I'd say, sure, get your suits. So, I was very much accountable to them too. But they were respectful when they talked to me. If they'd talked to me in a rude manner, I wouldn't have listened. Okay. How do you learn patience and leadership as a parent? Just keep watching. It's a skill. Once you learn how to do it, it's easier to do. If you don't know what you're doing and you're unclear about it, it's going to be very hard to do because you're going to be second guessing it. You're going to go, is this the right thing to do? That's why with coaching, a lot of parents, that's why they like coaching, because then I'm always sort of talking them off the cliff. And I say, I know it's hard. It's not supposed to be easy, but you're doing the right thing. So that's what coaching's all about. It's about, me kind of talking them off the cliff. That's what they tell me anyway. What the heck you're talking about. Sometimes people just write things, and someone was even talking about political stuff, and I was like, I guess they go on any platform and just try and get people. They try and pull people in. Plus, I don't know all the acronyms out there. I was reading something out about a year ago on one of my lives, and it was evidently really rude, and I didn't know it. And they were all laughing. Everyone kept saying, "Stop talking, Lisa! Stop talking!" I was reading, and this thing and that, and I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. Okay. Do you think your experience could differ based on your population of clients? Um, okay. You know what's interesting is, and I thought about this years ago, that when I was working with kids, I never worked with any easy kids. So whenever I'm talking about, I always think ADHD, stubborn, difficult. I'm never thinking easy kids. So I would say that has definitely, when I'm teaching, I'm always thinking challenging. Yeah. Yeah, there's a few different things like that. I thought that definitely. And then when I'm especially with teenagers. I always say I don't have a course on teenagers because how on earth would I put that into a course? I specialize in crisis work with teenagers. I don't need to put crisis work in a course. I can just talk about general teenage stuff, but I never work with that. So I know how to raise it and I know how to talk about it. But isn't that interesting? I always think crisis. Whenever I think teenagers, my mind goes to crisis work. So that's how it swayed me. Yeah, definitely. My kids weren't. They were a piece of cake. But, I got respect when they were little. But yeah, it has definitely skewed. I think I've got it more balanced now, though. Most of my clients, certainly, they're just like you. They're just, it's not anything crisis usually. Teenage stuff often is. But usually it's not crisis work. It's just, hey, look, our kids are being rude to us. How do we set ourselves up? How do we stop yelling? That's one of the main things they ask me. They're just like you. I get famous people sometimes. I get politicians, heads of corporations. They say, how come my life is just like that piece of cake? I know what I'm doing. I'm a real leader. And I go home, my kids walk all over me. So parenting's different. It's a whole different dynamic because it's personal. So that's my specialty is parent-child relationships. But yeah, definitely I've been swayed I used to do a lot of crisis work, and it took me a while to get my head out of that space, especially with teenagers. When you deal with life and death stuff so much, it does definitely sway you. And I remember years ago, it was a real turning point with me. I used to do a lot of TV, like live TV spots on morning shows and the news. And once I was introduced at the top of the 6 o'clock news as the crisis queen. And I thought, I'm never going to do TV again. Or not, like I stopped doing it after that because I don't want to be the crisis queen. I want to be the leadership. I don't want to be the queen at all, but I want to talk about positive stuff and leadership. I didn't want to be the crisis queen. I still work with that in coaching, but I don't lead with that anymore. But I definitely did a lot of crisis work back in the day. Anyway, enough about me. Okay, I'll do one more question, then I got to go. Well, it's like there's so many questions are the same here. Do you tell them you will not listen if they continue to talk to you like that? Is that whining? Then someone else said, headstrong and stubborn. I'm terrified how the experience is going to go. What to do when toddler acts out more and is more difficult when dad is around? They're all so similar, but you know what they all say to me? Is you're just not a leader. When you're a leader, none of that stuff happens. When you're a leader, you're so calm and you're so in control of yourself, and kids pick up on that. My son used to say, if my mom ever whispers, run, because that's when I'm disciplining. I have a whole different personality when I'm disciplining. I'm goofy and fun with kids, but when they do something I don't like, this is how I talk. And you can sort of take on this persona. It's like, if they do something I don't like, I'd say, I didn't like that. I'll tell you what we're going to do. You're going to help me do the laundry after dinner. Do you understand? Okay. And then I go back to playing again. But you got to let them know you're calm and you're organized and you know what you're doing. It's a lot of it is tone of voice, body language. I always laugh at this kid. He was about 8 years old and he threatened me. I was working with him and he said to me, if you don't let me have what I want, I'm going to throw a fit. And I said to him, bring it on. And he never did. You gotta fake it till you make it. You gotta be really calm and like nothing they do can fluster you. And that takes time to learn. Oh, I do a lot of role playing in coaching where we go back and forth and I have parents talk to me like that. And at first they're always really self-conscious and we laugh at them because their voices are shaky. They're trying really hard. But after a few goes, they start to get it and I say, how did it feel? And they go, it felt great. Like when you calm down, you get that tone of voice. So a lot of it is how you deliver it too. So if they fluster you and upset you, they know they're in charge. They just pick up on that. But it takes time to learn this. Just keep watching. And, I'm on here all the time. I do all this for free. There's no charge for any of these lives. I don't get paid for any of this. So, but this is where I do all my free stuff and help you out. When it comes to comments, I can't read comments anymore. I get thousands of them in all my platforms. And every so often I'll go in and read a few, or someone that helps me out, they'll tell me, you should check this out. Because I do have someone who doesn't read everything, but they try. But my direct messages, I'm really struggling these days. I think I got through half of my Facebook DMs and there's still another 100 left, I think, or something like that. So, and I haven't even looked at Instagram and TikTok and that. So I'm doing my best here to answer DMs, but I've gotten bigger and it's just getting harder and harder. That's why I'm really diligent with doing these lives. This is where you're going to catch me live. This is where I answer questions, because this is, at least I'm on here. So if you want to ask me questions, this is where I do it. So anyway, so I'm doing my best here. It's just gotten busy and I'm just doing my best. So thanks so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye now.